Hey, it's Zim, and should you play Monster Train? It's a game that is similar to Slay the Spire, but adds some unique and interesting twists on it. It's available for you right now at a price of $24.99, although it's currently on sale at $14.99 because a new DLC just came out for it. It's actually its first DLC, really. It's the Monster Train The Last Divinity. This is going to add some new options that I think will entice old players who maybe have put it aside for other games, as well as people who have been playing it for hundreds of hours and are looking for more content. I've played Monster Train for a few months, and it's a game that I have found to enjoy, though I do feel like the difficulty of the game can be on the easy side, especially if you're not increasing it through different ways to raise difficulty via the Covenant system, and then also throughout the campaign you will be in the trial system, and I'll show you all of that in a standard run. They do have challenges, of course, though. Some really cool ideas behind there. Hell Rush is where you race your friends. I think that's a really cool idea, especially where you find yourself pressured by time to beat other people, and so you can't just sit there and ponder different strategies and ideas and see if you can get them to function correctly. Community challenges is another really cool one. I think it's a ingenious way to continue to have community development around this, of like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if you can't play Hellhorned and you have to use only spells from the Umbra? I think the community challenges is a really neat idea. And of course, the daily challenges. Now, Slay the Spire has something very similar to this. I really enjoy Slay the Spire's daily challenge. I tend to usually play that one a lot. I don't do it nearly as much for Monster Train, but Monster Train offers something that Slay the Spire doesn't, which is a very high replayability in its standard runs. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. Now, not to say that Slay the Spire doesn't have a high amount of replayability. I've just played Slay the Spire to death, and there is little variance outside of the three classes. In this game, you get clans. And of the 5 clans, you only start with 2 available at first, the Awoken and the Hellhorned. Of course, you get a primary clan and a allied clan. Allied clans are going to add additional cards. The primary clan is going to be your champion, though, and I'll show you what that means later. As you can notice in the bottom, the Covenant system is how you're going to increase that difficulty. You have to beat the Covenant stage prior before you unlock the next one. So to unlock Covenant rank 2, for example, I have to beat Covenant rank 1. Now, of course, my favorite color is Umbra. I find that this faction is the most fun and also one of the stronger ones. Some of the balance between these clans seems a little bit off. I find that the Melting Remnant and the Stygian Guard tend to be a little bit weaker than the Umbra and the Hellhorned. But we're going to go ahead and jump into a campaign with what you'd basically get to start with, which is the Hellhorned and the Awoken. Mutators are another way to increase difficulty and change up the game, but we won't start with any of those, and we'll just go ahead and depart. The soundtrack for this game is pretty decent. The audio effects for the combat and the fighting and some of the animation between fighting isn't amazing, though. It's often something that I'll just turn off because I just don't want to hear them. Like, the fight animations aren't great, and the noises they make get pretty frustrating pretty quickly, especially if you have a headset on. These are the random starting cards that we're going to have, which is fine. And here we go. So you are on a train. We start out in Limbo, but we're heading towards Hell, or rather the center of Hell, to reignite it. And the conceit of this game is that Heaven has invaded and Hell has froze over and has been defeated, and we are Hell's last chance to come back. So we will be progressing through the several layers till we reach the very center, the Frozen Heart, to reignite it. But we get a couple things to start us out. We get to upgrade our champion, and we get to start with an artifact. Artifacts in this game are very interesting, just like in Slay the Spire. There is also a numerous amount of them. I think just under 100. But unfortunately, sometimes you'll encounter choices that just don't matter, and more often than not, you'll usually have those choices every run, where it's like, I don't want either of these things because neither of these really help my strategy, and you'll end up hitting that skip plus 25 gold button. It's an unfortunate reality towards these artifacts. But I think we're going to take the rail hammer. That's pretty good. And we'll do the Dark Forge. Now, your champion, which is only from your main clan, and is kind of your main fighter, always can be upgraded every few levels of hell. Now, what is that going to give you, really? Just depends. Right now, we have Wrathful and Brawler as our choices. These are random. They're usually one or two other choices that are not being shown to you, so don't expect that if you choose Brawler, the next time you get to upgrade again, you'll get Brawler again. It just won't happen. But of course, we can either choose Wrathful Brawler. Slay is a keyword that when you kill one of their units, you get that effect, so in this case, you'd gain 14 armor. And Rage says you would gain essential things after you take damage. So Rage 2 is +2 attack every time you take damage. And you only get that on Revenge, which is when you take damage. So Hornbreaker Prince is the champion for the Hornbreakers. And both of these are pretty decent. I don't know. Like, having more health is always good. Yeah, and you'll see that in a second when we get into a fight. But multi-strike is also really good, and starting with armor is really good. I think we'll take Wrathful then. And we'll move on down. Alright, this is going to give you a glimpse of what you're about to face. So we're going against a Discipled Inquisitor, and Forged Disciple, and a Trusted Priest. Now, these are just the unit types that will appear. It'll also kind of show you what they're about and the stats they're bringing. And this is the trial system I was talking about. So this is a way to increase the difficulty of your game during the game. So even if you haven't unlocked some of the Covenant ranks, you'll be able to still increase this. So in this case, Mark of Invasion, start of battle, enemy units appear on each floor. That is very difficult, especially if you're just kind of learning the game, because of what it means is you're going to have to spread out your defenses more, and right now you just don't have a lot of units in your deck. So that could be very difficult if we choose to start with that. It'd also give us 75 gold if we complete it, and right now we only have 50, but I think we're going to keep it off. Alrighty, and this is the main screen for the game. This is your train. You have a core. If this core, or the Shard of the Pyre, ever dies, you lose. Now, outside of that, you have the 3 floors, and they will slowly be trying to invade to reach the core. They reach the core, they'll start attacking it, but you notice that the core has attack, it'll attack back to defend itself. However, that 80 health runs out, it dies. Now, if we would have taken that trial, they would have actually had units on all of these floors, or at least 2 of these floors, and we would have to worry about that. But right now, we can see that they have a healer in the back with only 1 health, and a 2-attack 40 health guy. So, pretty tough. Of course, we have spells in hand, so we can cast this torch for 1 energy. We do start with 3 energy, and using that, we can kill the guy in the back, and we don't have to worry about a healer. Now, this guy wants to slay people. However, how combat works is they'll attack first, unless you have someone with first strike. Then you'll attack back if you survived. And then, if everyone's still alive, these guys will move up to the next floor of the train. And once again, you'll be in a card phase where you can play cards and start bolstering your defense for the next floor. Of course, you can just put guys on this floor and just wait until they get there, but that may not be a great idea. However, we will put our prints, and right now it'll give you a forecast of what's going to happen in this battle. So it's showing me that I will take 2 damage and he will take 19 damage. After that, he would move on to the next floor. So it's really nice that you don't have to kind of be forced to do the math yourself, and kind of saves you time on that. Now, of course, Slay the Spire and other games do that as well, but it's just nice that it's just present there, and it's something to be aware of as you're playing the game, that as you place cards, it'll kind of tell you how things are going to play out. Now, also, all these train floors have capacity. Champions normally cost 2, and most of your basic units are going to cost 2 capacity as well. However, stronger units and stronger champions might take more space on that floor. This is important to keep in mind because you don't want to have one guy on a floor taking all the capacity and then have him die because there's no way to support him. Of course, capacity can be increased through different upgrades for your train. That's something to keep in mind as well. But right now, you'll start with 5. And so in this case, we'll put a train steward back there. And these spells cost too much for me to play, so we'll toss them out end of turn. And as you can see, the animations were nothing to write home about. They're very much kind of smash 2 figures together, and then the noise itself isn't like the combat audio isn't anything special either. It's nothing that you're like, oh man, I really want to hear that over and over again. I find it's very grating. I always want to turn it off. In fact, I've had it turned off for a while. I've just turned it back on for this video. But once again, we're going to see as forecast. So as you can see, they're going to take 21 damage, and we're going to take 2. There's no one fighting them. And then this collector is kind of like a treasure goblin from Diablo, if you've ever played the Diablo series. They will appear randomly on different floors, and if you can kill them, they'll give you their reward. In this case, he'll give me 50 gold. Then that's awesome. However, if you can't, he'll escape, and you get nothing. Of course, you can always use your torch spell, for example, to gain it. And let's see. Kind of want to deal with this. Unfortunately, we didn't draw any units, and that could become a problem. And right now, this is only 84 damage, so we do have some worries here. Apply the spikes. That card's going to do nothing. Not a great start for us, that's for sure. And they'll move on. Now, often throughout the rounds, you'll get what's called a break round, where enemies don't board your trade. This usually happens the turn before the boss shows up. So it's an extra turn to prepare, and it's hopefully an extra turn to help you deal with your incursions that are happening. Obviously, we don't want them to heal, so we're going to put an end to that healer, and we still have 2 mana, so you probably want to put some train stewards down. Probably put them here. Unfortunately, it's still not going to kill them, which means they're going to make it to my core. I find that the Forged Disciples as your starting enemy tend to be the hardest of the base core game, just because of how much health. Not difficult in terms of that you're going to lose to it, but they're going to do damage to your core because you just don't have anything to really fight them with. So we're going to end turn there. And there's a core fight and the final wave. So as you're seeing, it's glowing. That means the boss is here. Now, normally combat only happens in 1 wave. However, this will continue to happen until either all my guys are dead or all his guys are dead, and then he'll move on to the next floor where you can play some cards. You'll also note that right now I have no units to play, so he's taking 79 damage. However, all my guys are dying, which is probably not great for me. Of course, we're going to want to kill that healer in the back, which increases that damage. We might want to inflame here. Look at that, we're going to kill him. Perfect. Unfortunately, all battles happen from the top down, which means that this is going to happen first. The boss is slain. Why it's unfortunate that it happens from top down is that if someone was at your core, and let's say the boss is on the bottom and the boss is going to die, your core is still going to get damaged first. which is something that you're going to want to try to mitigate as best as possible. You don't want your core taking a lot of damage because it's pretty hard to heal, and often means that you're sacrificing upgrade choices to heal your core. However, once you're done with the battle, you'll get a final score. The score will essentially give you clan XP at the end of your run, which will unlock more cards. In addition, you get spoils for now. The 50 gold came from the victory, plus we already gained an additional 50 from killing the collector, and then we get 2 cards, one for the red and one for the green. And so we're presented with 3 spells. I was hoping for some units, but I think we will take the Horn Break. As you probably guessed, all the clans have a specialty. Green tends to be restoring units and buffing units. Red tends to be direct damage. I think we're going to take the Steel Enhancer. And moving on. And after you go through a fight, you get to choose your path, just like in Slay the Spire. Of course, these are going to give you different options. This will allow you to upgrade your spells. This will allow you to upgrade your units. And these will give you a unit of that color. So in this case, red or green. However, you don't get both choices, so it is a choice of what you want. I think we're going to upgrade... We didn't get any units is the problem. So we might want to upgrade spells and hope we get a red unit here. Both of these are pretty decent. Multi-strike is really good as long as the unit can survive. Yeah, take it. Why not? And we can upgrade our spells. Now, these are all different abilities. Of course, you can reroll to get different choices at 50 gold, but right now we only have 150 gold, which is a worry. Purge card is 50 gold as well. That removes a card from your deck. That's not just spells. This will allow you to remove any card, even though we're at the spell upgrade shop. It will allow you to purge any card. So just something to keep in mind as well, that you don't have to go to the specific shop to purge that specific card. And I think we will upgrade 10 magic. Probably want to do that on our Hornbreaker here. As you can see, all cards get an upgrade of 2 spots, which means they can only have 2 upgrades before they can no longer be upgraded. Just something to keep in mind. And yeah, let's make that Inflame cost 1 less. And we do have 110 gold left, so maybe it's worth a reroll. Consume is, of course, something that you've seen in Slay the Spire. It's going to remove it from your deck until the battle ends. And then once the battle's over, that card comes back to your deck. It's not a permanent burn, but it is a burn for that entire battle. We'll just take another free reduce sharpen. Then you move on to the next battle. Obviously, as you progress through the different pathways, you'll be presented with different ways, like the Pyre Remains, which will help you restore the health of your Pyre. Duplicate cards. Duplicate any card except for your champion. And of course, you'll also be able to encounter random events, gain more artifacts. All the random events in this game tend to be positive, or at least not very negative. I've definitely hit some game-ending run random events in Slay the Spire. I've never really hit those in this game at all. So if they exist, I've never seen them. I've played quite a lot of Hell's Train, so like it's something to be aware of, but it's never something to be worried about. And then you're just going to progress towards the boss. All these enemies tend to be the same. In terms that, obviously, we're not going to fight the same guy. We're going to fight a new, different group of people. So, in this case, Clergyman, Conduit, Infiltrator, and the Steel Slate. However, these bosses and these unit types are something you'll be very familiar with if you played more than a couple rounds of it. And once again, every fight will also give you this trial system, which in this case, non-boss enemies gain +4 attack, but I'll get to draft a primary or allied clan unit at the end of the round. Once again, those are there just to give you more of a challenge if you find that you're stomping through the game and nothing's that bad. As you can see, he's buffing them, giving them haste. What does haste do? That means they're going to skip this floor and immediately go here, and then to the core itself. Haste is a pretty bad ability. If your opponents have it, you're going to be very sad unless you can kill the back line. Now, that's something, when you first play this game, you're going to have access to, but when you start experimenting with the different covenants, you might not have access to Torch, and that is a huge loss. So that's something to also kind of just be aware of, is that you can quickly become dependent on certain abilities and then realize as you play a new game with new things that, like, oh man, I don't have Torch. How am I going to deal with someone who's giving haste when I can't deal damage to the back line? We're going to go ahead and put out these guys real quick, though. And right now, my guy's just dying. He's going to take 15 damage and die. It's not something we want, right? So we'll put a Train Steward out. And so it's showing now that he's actually going to gain 9 armor from a Slay. But one of his guys is going to live. Unfortunately, we've reached capacity, so I can't put the Horned Warrior there. So perhaps I'll put a Horned Warrior up here instead, and we'll end the turn. And just like we've seen before, new wave, and these guys continue to progress. He's obviously being threatened, so we want a Train Steward there. And I'm killing all 3 now because he has multi-strike. It looks like no one's really too much of a worry here. But we can, if we want, clear that forward. Just like that. There's our brief respite, which means the boss wave is next. Get the steel enhancement here. And unfortunately, all these are damage spells, and we have no one to damage, so we're just going to have to pass our turn here. And there's that boss for us. And it's telling me that we're going to kill the boss, and my guy's going to barely take any damage here, so that's not bad. Increase that, restore him, torch that guy, and restore him again. Perfect. Just watch that play out. Yeah, if I had a complaint about this game, it's that the audio for the combat isn't great, and that the animations for combat are very lackluster, kind of. I mean, honestly, you could just fast forward through them because they're very pointless and not very impactful in any way. It's probably my biggest complaint about this. Ooh, some imps. Both are pretty good. I think I'm going to fortify though. I'll just do some self-buff cards. And once again, I'm presented with some different choices. Duplicating card. So there are certain areas that you'll come across where there's a buff in the middle. That means either route will always give you concealed caverns. This is going to be your kind of your random event. You don't really need to heal our train, so we'll just duplicate a card. And unfortunately can't duplicate our champion, so it'll be a Horned Warrior. Of course, we could have taken this first and then did the Horned Warrior. That might have been better. Or duplicated one of these instead, I should say. Because Sweep is going to hit all enemies in that entire row, which is really good. And here's that random event. And you get to take a perspective from the train. So then they're offering me something worth. Of course, you can always choose not to take it. Why would you do that? Well, it might just throw off your deck, or maybe you just don't find that you want them at all. Rail Spike seems really good, though, so I think I'm going to take that one. And that's the game. You're going to keep fighting, and these enemies will get harder. Not drastically, I find. The only real power spike this game is going to have is the last boss, and even then, I don't know if I'd call it much of a power spike. If you are unaware of Seraph the Chaste, as in you've never fought him, you might be caught off guard on how he functions, and that may cause you to lose. But I feel that when you read what these characters do in the preamble before the battle, you're often given enough of a heads up on how you want to deploy your units and how you're going to use your strengths to try to overcome the odds. Of course, that can be difficult depending on which Covenant factions you're playing, and obviously you might just not have anything for that, and then that's something that you'll have to work towards as you unlock more cards for those Covenants and try to figure out ways to conquer your weaknesses. It's all kind of what you'd expect from a deck building roguelike. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it adds a lot of variety to the Slay the Spire genre. Something that, if you've seen my video on some of the other ones, there are a lot of Slay the Spire likes that just don't do anything interesting or different enough that makes you want to play them over Slay the Spire, other than maybe you needed more fresh content because you've played Slay the Spire to death. But we're going to just abandon this run here. And as you see, we got some XP here for the Covenants. Now, if you were able to complete that run on that Covenant rank, by the way, you would, of course, unlock the next Covenant rank. But obviously, since we quit, it will not. And as I said, there's a new DLC coming out, or just came out, rather. The Last Divinity DLC. That's on sale normally for $11.99. Currently on sale for, like, I think 10% off, so, like, around $10 and some change. In terms of, like, the cost for a DLC for a game like this, I think it's very fair. I think there's already a ton of content to explore and have fun with, and then the DLC is just there to add more to it as you need it. As, like, something that I wish maybe Slay the Spire does, or did rather, would be that they add DLC to it for other classes or something to make it more interesting and make me want to come back and play the game more and fight through all these different challenges again and again, because unfortunately I have played Slay the Spire to death. Not as much as my friends, but I put in, 100 hours, and I'm good with that. I don't want to put more time into that game. And Monster Train, I think I called it Hell Train earlier, which is what it is. You're on a train to reignite hell. But Monster Train does offer a lot of variety. It's new, so you probably haven't played it to death yet. And now there's also DLC to where once you start getting bored with what you have, you can add more to it. And I think that's a very good thing for these style of games, and something that I would like to see happen with Slay the Spire. Anyway, that's Monster Train. Should you play it? I think you should. I think you should definitely give it a look at the very least. I think it's definitely worth picking up, especially right now on the current day that I'm making this video. It's, half off? Slightly less, about 40% at $14.99. I think at $14.99, that's a steal of a price, and at $24.99, it was easily worth its value. Anyway, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching.